Good afternoon. Volvo is a leader in the move towards new forms of mobility and electrification, and clearly stated what the new world looks like in terms of propulsion and ADAS. Great leadership combined with heavy investments coming from its mother company, Geely, has led to great success. Volvo has launched its first all-electric model and aims to raise its total all-electric cars to 50% of the overall sales by 2025. I am proud to have with us today Hakan Samuelsson, CEO of Volvo. Hi Hakan, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, and very nice to be with you here today.
So following our discussion a few days ago, I was asking you to get us to some of your thoughts and vision towards what's happening from now. Major change, no sales, sales are picking up pretty much in China and actually in the US in the last few days. Also Europe's hanging there. How do you see things after the corona?
Yeah, it's of course the big question. I don't think anybody knows the perfect answer. I mean, it depends on, I think we have really a big risk if we let this drag on too long. It would be very difficult to revitalize the economy again. But hopefully we are now on our way to normality, and then I am a believer of a rather rapid comeback. It's not like a financial crisis, it's more like we have taken a break, we have a vacation. I hope that is going to be the case. I think we have some signals that could support that. One is, of course, China. They did a very drastic shutdown and really as a response, and then came back very rapidly. People came back into the stores, and right now we are selling, in May here, we are selling more than last year in May. I think over 20% higher numbers. A really good sign. And I heard yesterday also from the US, the southern part of US, in the last 10 days, they have also sold more cars than last year in the same period. I mean, very small period, but still sign of recovery. So hopefully this will be history in some months from now, and then we are back into business. And then, of course, will anything change? Or will everything go back to normal? I'm a believer it will probably not go back to normal. I would more say this will accelerate some changes in our business.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what do you define as normal. And I would combine to that with another question, which is, how do you see the supply chain? And the entire industry relies on supplies coming from all over the world. A lot's coming from the East, especially China. How do you see that recovered?
Two answers. I think, of course, some are now closed down because of Corona and so on. Of course, that will cause disturbances in our supply chain. But right now, I don't think our problem is supply or production. Our problem right now is customers has to come back buying cars. So that's the immediate answer. And long term, I mean, this globalization and having suppliers very long away in China delivering Europe, I think that is also something that will change. We will see more production and supply closer to where we sell cars. I wouldn't claim that to the virus. I think that started earlier. It's more the trade situation, you know, with the duties being raised. I think that is probably not going to be as some temporary things. I think manufacturing is going to increase in US and also in Europe, and China will not be able to export as much as they have done earlier. So more build where you sell. I think that is now a trend.
You refer to globalization, and you see that the wave of globalization taking place, say, 20 years, maybe more, is going to be back to basics, and probably companies will do more at hometown rather than globally? Is this a wave that you see happening?
When it comes to manufacturing, I think really that we will produce more locally because of trade restrictions and of course also costs for freight. But when it comes to know-how, innovations, new technology, there I'm quite sure that will remain definitely a global business. I think it will be even more global. That hopefully will not go back to narrow national innovations, because that will be less interesting innovations. The innovations and development has to be global. We have to have diversity into that. And I think that's also something we learned also working with some companies in Israel. And we work with companies in America, we work in companies in China, and that is giving us a better base for good ideas and new technology.
Yeah, Israel is becoming a powerhouse for mobility technologies. 9 years ago, when we started EcoMotion, there was no auto industry to speak for, as you know. And today there are over 600 startups are engaged in that. And you, as Volvo, are involved with some of that, which is great, and thank you for that. Staying on the technology side and cooperation, how do you see if globalization is going to withdraw to localization in a way? How do you see cooperation in technologies developing? Because clearly what was happening in the last few years, that a lot of cooperations was done actually globally. Startups that were based in many parts of the world themselves and able to access customers, technologies, and markets at the same time. How do you see this evolves, the technology cooperation?
It will remain. I think we will see global technology, global products. It's not that we have the same car in all countries, but it's global architectures. Vision technology, for an example. We will have the same vision technology in all our cars, independently where they are built. So technology and product development will definitely stay global, but the production of the components will probably be more regional, more produce where you sell, because of you need to have short delivery times and avoid costs in freight and duties. So,
when we last spoke, you said that in addition to electrification, you see the trend of smaller cars and more expensive because they'll be loaded with a lot of technologies. Can you take us to this trip and elaborate?
Yes. Propulsion, as you said, we will probably come back to that. Firm believer we will have electric cars, and that's where we should focus on. If you look into sizes of cars, there are two developments. One is that the market for cars is polarizing. One car is for people who really just want the mobility or the transportation. And then there is another group of customers who also want to show more of their personality with the cars. That's what we call premium cars. More expensive cars, but also carries values and an identity. I think it's more or less the same as in the industry for clothing and that is happening, the division into mass market and premium. And probably of demographic reasons, you also see a trend towards smaller cars. So traditionally cheaper cars were smaller, expensive cars were bigger. Now we see that an expensive premium car could also be small and or big. It's not the same thing. And I often say it's exactly as with a good suit. Just because you have a smaller size suit, you don't need to have a suit in polyester. You still want to have it in nice clothing and nice wool even if it's smaller. And I think that's happening for cars also. So Volvo will be safe premium cars, but they could be small or they could be big.
You mentioned less globalization. Let's talk about China and the West trade. There is a big attack from the President of the United States about China, obviously. Your company is owned by Geely, a Chinese auto conglomerate. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that particular issue of trading with the Chinese, and what will be if indeed there will be some limitations on that?
There will be definitely less global trade of cars. I mean, if you would really like to minimize the capital invested in a car, you would really like to build one type in one factory and sell it all over the world, and another type you build only in another factory and selling it all over the world. I mean, then you would have less investment, but you would have, of course, more transport, logistic cost, and also import duties. And right now, import duties are going up. So then you will come into a situation that double investing will be profitable. So you will build one car in China as well as in Europe, maybe also in America. And of course, the cost goes up then. So I mean, that I think is something everybody should understand. If you introduce trade duties, you will see more double investment. You will see cars produced more locally, but also that the price of the cars will go up for the consumers.
What do you see to be the technologies? You know, everybody say, okay, let's forget for a minute on full autonomy for everybody, everywhere. Electrification, connectivity, ADAS are the main areas where investments will go. I think there is another area that people tend to forget, and Volvo is one of those who invest a lot of that in the car, in the cockpit technologies. Sensing, smell, ability to identify the driver through his mobile phone, etc. Can you take us to this future world where maybe these new small cars, more expensive, that you're going to introduce will include?
Yes, I think it's a lot about experience coming into the car, which has to develop. I mean, traditionally, you walk in and put on an FM radio and listen to Radio Tel Aviv or whatever you are listening to, and you have an...
We don't listen to Radio Tel Aviv.
But I mean, 20 years ago, you did that. You had the key made of steel to open the car. I mean, in the future, you can do the experience much more personal. I mean, you walk in, the car knows who is entering. You don't need a key because the telephone already signal that now you are in the car and it is possible to drive. Your playlist or your favorite music also comes up automatically. Of course, the seat setting is also automatic. It's a lot of things that could be done. You could also think also for a safety brand like Volvo, there will also be face recognition, seeing that maybe today you are a bit tired and maybe the car says so, and maybe you should take a break. After 5 hours behind the wheel, maybe this recommendation come up. And for also possibilities to detect, of course, people are under influence of drugs or alcohol, could make the car also safer. So I think it's a lot of things that could happen now with new technology, making cars safer and experience inside the car, because people spend a lot of time in the car, and there's really a untapped potential to offer their really high quality experience to the driver and the passengers.
Okay, I would say that what EcoMotion created is that you were one of the first to come to Israel, to the startups, rather than the startups go to its customers around the world. And thank you very much for helping.